So are you ready to learn the secret of everything? Well, I'm going to give you a stab at it because this seed that we call everything is infinite. So we can only grasp so much. This human mind, while we're only using 5-10% of it, maybe 15% for, some geniuses like me, but I'm joking. There's a framework. There's a model that we can follow. And I've been studying this stuff over and over and over again. And then last week in meditation, all of a sudden, my mind expanded and said, do a diagram. Well, okay, a diagram of what? And it said a diagram of how it works. And so I just started, it was at class on Monday night. And while the students, they were not kids, while the students are doing their thing, I went to the whiteboard and I started just letting things come out of me. And then I took it home and more came out of me. And then this morning, more came out of me. So I want to share this with you. But I want you to understand everything begins with one premise. One premise is that there's an infinite power and presence that is in, through, and as all things. Because if there is an infinite, there can only be one infinite. Does that make sense? There cannot be more than one infinite. So the infinite is all that there is. And if the infinite is all that there is, then everything is made out of the infinite. It is the infinite, expressing as only it can. However, through our eyes, we see the infinite as individualized. Okay, so now we're going to take it from that standpoint. We now understand that we are the individualization of the one. Okay? And that's where we go. So first, we come to this aspect of life that we call the spiritual aspect. And in the spiritual aspect, we've got to first know who we are. So we have to find a way to connect to that which is in us, that is greater than us, that is this infinite that's with us. The whole purpose of life is constantly coming back to that aspect, coming back to that truth, that knowing that it is not this little Lee or this little me, it is the big me that is beyond anything that the words can say. I am not this human experience, I'm beyond my human experience. Once I understand that there is a creative power in the oneness, a creative power in the allness. And that creative power is something I am using every moment of my life. It is the law. It is that aspect of the divine that gives us whatever our mental atmosphere, whatever our predominant thought process is, it's creating in our life. So the outpicturing of our life, how we view people, how we view things, how we have a job, how we do anything, is simply mirroring back to us what we have visualized in our mind, maybe unconsciously, most of the time unconsciously, but consciously. So it's about then, spirituality is understanding how to use the law through the process of our thought. And then under the spiritual aspects, we've built up this idea that we call spiritual practices. So this could actually be under spiritual, or it could be under the physical aspect of doing things or the mental aspects of doing things. But for purposes of this talk, I put it under the spiritual. So meditation is that aspect where we silence the mind, we silence the mental aspect, we silence the physical aspect, and we connect with the allness. We go into a place, the void, where there is nothing but the it. And we get there for fractions of seconds at times. So we may be meditating and our mind is going on and on and on and on, and then all of a sudden, we're in that state. Then the mind comes back, goes on and on and on, but we were in that state, and there's a feeling associated with that. There's a feeling that happens when you get into that state. And when you get that feeling, you want more of it. It's addictive because it's love. It's pure love, no conditions whatsoever. And then we go to the next spiritual practices where we actually start using the law. And we use the law through the things called prayer, affirmations, visualization, forgiveness, gratitude. That's how we're using the law. We're actually putting into our minds through those practices what we desire to have. So there is a spiritual aspect, and most of the time people come to a spiritual center, that's what we only focus on. But that's 1/3, maybe even 1/4 of what we need to focus on. And so now we go and we come to the mental aspect of life, because we do have a mind, an individualized mind. And our mind is unique because there's a DNA within us that is unique to us. No one else has these things within us. And so first thing we do is we determine what is that DNA, and that DNA is really what we value. And so our core values, our dominant values, call them your top 5, 6, whatever you want to call them, they're unique to us. No one else in the world has them. There are 4,628 traits as defined by Dr. John D. Martini. All of us own all of these traits. However, we tend to focus on certain ones. Those become what we value, and from that, we live our lives, if we're aware. If we're not aware, we're going to live our lives unconsciously by not what we value, but by lower values, and then we're living a life of ho-hum. And when we're living a life of ho-hum, that's where we become victims. That's where the whole victim mentality comes in. And you got to understand something. When people who are not aware want something, they want to control you. And when they control you, in order to control you, you have to be a victim. You have to be willing to give up your power and not live to your highest values. Because from your highest values, what comes next is your purpose. And your purpose doesn't mean it's in one specific area of life, but it's a purpose about who you are and what you're going to be in every moment of your life. And you take that, and no matter what situation you're in, you live from that purpose. And from that purpose, then, we have this thing. It's the most beautiful thing. It's our imagination. But so often, when we're children, we're told not to imagine. We're told that we have to fit into a box, either by our teachers, our parents, our grandparents, by politics, by religion. We're told we've got to fit into by our sexuality, being a male, a female, a heterosexual, a gay. There's a box. Yeah, I'll go there. So I have 2 sons. I have a son, Stephen, in the back, and I have a son, Matthew, who's in Denver. And Matthew is a big man, 6'2.5", 190, handsome man. And Matt, in this lifetime, has come down and is gay. But when you meet Matt, you would not know he was gay, except on Thursday. Because I'm there and I say, oh, Matt changed his Facebook profile. I wonder what that could be. So I'm an inquisitive father. I go click on it, and there comes up this video. And there's my son, dressed as Marilyn Monroe, walking down. Isn't it interesting how a wife wants to ruin your story? I have a great story. You see, the story is from my perspective. I saw Marilyn Monroe. She saw some crazy woman from this other movie. Anyway, Marilyn Monroe is walking down the thing, and Marilyn Monroe is sashaying. She's doing it all. And I said, holy crap, if I didn't know better, I just know that was a big woman. That's not my son. It surely can't be my son. And so a little later on, my son has a partner, Robert. And it's hard for me to get it straight. My son has a husband, Robert, but yet my son, Matthew, is a husband as well. So I'm still adjusting to the idea of a husband and a wife and a wife and that type of thing. But he has a husband. And there they are. And at this point, I say Matthew changed his costume, and he became the woman in Grease. And her partner was John Travolta. And they're standing next to each other. And I started writing a comment at the bottom, and I wrote the comment, and it said, my sons, oh well, I guess I just have to accept whatever it is. Because in life, everyone's individual. And you just have to embody it, and you have to accept it for where they are. You see, that's what love is. And you can't get in and you have to say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. No, it's a life expressing. And then my mind goes back to 1975, long time ago. I'm 75, I'm 24 years old, I'm working at Allstate, I'm a management trainee. I've got an imagination incredible. It's Halloween, I'm gonna win the damn contest. I come dressed as a prostitute. I mean, I've got the Spanish, what do you call the thing where you pull the sleeves down? I've got the big, wonderful glands. I've got the short skirt. I've got the heels, the socks. I got a wig. I'm made up. and I have this beautiful full mustache too. Needless to say, like my son won the contest, so did I. And I said, oh, the apple really didn't fall far from the cart. Imagination. So you see how imagination can play in. Okay, then from there we get into this idea that we talk about goals. But when we set goals, we tend to set goals in areas that are not important to us. See, if we don't know our values and our purpose, it's impossible to set meaningful goals. Okay, so we set these goals for ourselves, and then we link. Here's a real key thing. A lot of times we're doing things and we're saying, why am I doing that? In other words, I put together 145 certificates for people that finish classes at Agape that will pass out a little later. That's not in my values. But I did it because I was able to link it to my values. And one of my top values is building a large spiritual community. So by linking it, I no longer fretted it, and I was able to get it done much quicker. So do you understand the process of linking? Linking means doing something that's not necessarily what you value, but at this time I can't delegate it off, so I'm going to link it and see how it supports my values. Now that takes away any angst about it. It's, I got to do this. I don't want to do that. That when we do things without the attitude of joy and about the attitude of being of service, it doesn't serve us. It'll actually attract more of that which we don't want. So then from there, we've got to live in awareness whether our actions are in alignment with our values. And this one is a real key thing. We have to be aware that, are we living to our values? Are we speaking? Are we writing things in alignment with our values? If we're not, we got to pause and we got to begin again. And then once a year, we've got to stop and reevaluate what our values are. Because here's the thing that I know. If I look back over my life, my values have changed many, many times. And I know that they're going to change again. So because we change and life around us changes, our values change, and then we have to take time, become clear of our values, then we begin the mental process again. So now we've got the mental, now we go to the physical. And the physical is what I believe is the most critical, because this is where we get to demonstrate in the human form. And in the human form, the key is to take one step, one action, one thought more every day in the direction of the goals that we've set that are aligned with our values in all the areas of life. And I put down the 7 areas of life that I look at. I've adopted these from Dr. John DeMartini. There is our career, it's our social, our financial, our physical well-being, our intellectual, our spiritual, our familial, or our intimate. I included family and intimate relationships all in the same one. So in each of these areas, these are the real aspects of all of life, and we should have in our mind who is the ultimate person that we want to be in that. You see these people taking pictures? They think this is the end of the slide. There's still more coming. See, I knew there would be these people that want to get the jump on all of you, but I am sneaky. And so anyway, so we get this, and you can see, do you have a clear-cut idea how your values and your purpose fits your career, your social, your financial, your physical well-being, your intellectual, your spiritual, and your intimate aspect? If you don't, it's time to sit down and you do that, because only you can do it. No one else can do this. And you see this whole idea, all of this, and the key statement at the bottom that I'm not ready to reveal yet, without doing all this, you'll never live your dream. No matter what anyone tells you, because we were at a great workshop last weekend, 3 days with Mary Morrissey, incredible teacher, showed us great gifts and stuff, but it was only a part of the picture. And that's why this came to me. There's so much more to the picture, but I understand that when you're in a situation, you're attracting 700 people, you're going to market to attract the most. Well, I'm not here to attract the most. I'm here to attract the people who really want to go deep, who want to make an impact in their lives, and by making an impact in their lives, they impact the world around them, and that's how we change the world. We raise the consciousness of the world by who we become, and by becoming something, we've got to embody all these aspects. And so here's the one, here's the meat. Feelings are everything. It's about our feelings, first off, guide us when we're in alignment. They tell us, are we in alignment with our values? Are we in alignment with our purpose? Are our actions in alignment? Are our thoughts in alignment? When we feel good, when we feel a contentment, we know we're in alignment. So they're a feedback response. But here's the next part. Whenever we go into a situation, are we going in with a feeling? Are we going in knowing, for example, are we going in knowing today, am I going in knowing I'm going to give a great talk? Am I going to connect with you? Am I so fully invested in this that I want to share it at such a passion? Am I coming in with the feeling or am I waiting till afterwards to have the feeling? No, you've got to come into it. It's the same thing when you're going into a relationship with someone. You've got to go in with the feelings that it's going to work, the feelings that you're going to connect. Because if you're not going in, you're waiting for them to do something. Now it's not a cause and effect thing. You're waiting and you're going to react. You're not responding. You're not creating. You see, and everything is about really responding. So we can go back to meditation. Meditation teaches us that if when we're still, we'll get 3 seconds, and 3 seconds before something happens, we can now respond instead of react. See, that's the beauty of meditation. It's a simple thing as that. If you got 3 seconds, you can ask the question, is what I'm about to do in my highest interest? And if you program yourself that before you do anything, you ask that question, you will not stick your proverbial foot in your mouth. And we do that all the time. Maybe you don't, but I did. And sometimes I still do. You see, the journey of being a human is, while we've got this model, we forget it all the time. There's nothing on this chart that you've not heard before. But have you seen it like this? Are you practicing it every day? See, this is why spiritual community is so important. This is why I created it, because my number 2 value is to teach and learn about how to better self-love through conscious living. But I realize in order to do that effectively, I've got to be able to create and build with others a community that has that same value. Because without a community, you're out in the world, and the race consciousness, the human consciousness of society that's unconscious, will bombard us over and over and over again, and we quickly forget this. So this is as good as I've got today. But it's not as good as I'll have tomorrow. Because I know this is going to expand. Because what I see happening here is a book. There's no doubt about it that I've got one book already on my mind, and that's on how to create a perfect relationship. This is how to live a successful and meaningful life. But it's not my book. It's our book. And each week, all we ever do at Agape is find ways to live one of these aspects, to help you go deeper, to help you question. Because if you're not questioning, you're stuck. If you're bored in any moment, think about it. If you're bored in any moment, you got all this you could be working on. It means you're just not focused. Because if you're focused, there's no reason to ever be bored. You've got enough to do that you can create a life that is unbelievable for yourself. So we've eliminated any excuse that I'm bored. We've eliminated any excuse of, but I'm doing this, Lee, or because of this. We've eliminated that because when people come to me, I ask them this question, what are your top 5 values? And from those values, what are your purpose? Are you spiritually living them? Are you supporting them with your spiritual practices? Are you imagining them? Are you doing the work on creating a mental atmosphere? Are all your thoughts and actions in alignment? Are you moving forward every day? You see, if you have a coach in your life, a mentor, a partner, a spouse, this is why they're in your life. You have people in your life to be on the journey with you. It's not to be totally embodied in the journey. They're walking side by side, and at times they're going to veer off because their journey is going to take them in another direction, and yours is going to take it, then you come back. And sometimes that journey can last for long periods of time. Sometimes it lasts for shorter periods of time. It doesn't matter because the only thing that matters in life is that you learn how to better self-love and you find your purpose. And when you're on your deathbed, when you're about to breathe your last breath, you go, I lived. I truly, truly lived. I went beyond my fears. I went beyond anything anyone ever expected of me because I knew it was in me. And in that moment, you'll be in a state of gratitude. You will close your eyes. You will breathe in. And when you release your breath, you'll move to the next dimension. Is that not the way to end the physical life we're in? You can create that. The power is in you. I invite you to study. I invite you to question. I invite you to practice. I invite you to seek support. But most of all, I invite you to be you. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.